So tell us, what's your dream job?
Darling, I've told you several times before, I have no dream job. I do not dream of labor.
So there are certain things I wish I would have known, somebody would have told me before actually signing up to become a flight attendant. I still would have done it, but I would have been better prepared. And when I say this, it's more relating to the lifestyle of a flight attendant. It's completely different. It's unlike anything you'll ever do. Hey y'all, welcome on board. My name is Rhonda, and today I will be your lead flight attendant on board. Just kidding, I'm the only flight attendant here. So before we get started, if you're new here, I'd like to invite you to a very personal subscribe button, okay? If you do end up liking this content, I'd invite you to help grow our community by subscribing. The red subscribe button down below, please go ahead and click that and join our crew. And if you are a returning subscriber and you already love my content, go ahead and click the like button and leave me a comment down below. I like to chat with you. And if you have any question, any question at all, please go ahead. I'm really good at responding. So if you have any question, feel free to leave them down below in the comments. Okay, so let's get started. With this video, I wanted to do something a little different. This time, I wanted to get answers from flight attendants across different airlines and not just my opinions and my experiences, because everybody is not going to relate to my experience. So I went across the aisle and I asked a couple flight attendants from my airline, different airlines, and I have answers for you guys. And today I'm going to be narrating their story, and if I feel there's something I can add to it that might make you understand better, I'll go ahead and add to it. But just know that this is coming from multiple flight attendants that I've spoken to for this project. And this is going to be a series. We're going to be discussing different things when it comes to the airline industry. Always do your own research. Do not just listen to what I say or what other flight attendants are saying. Make sure you're doing your own research, because that is going to help you and get you to the finish line. Don't just listen to what somebody tells you, okay? It's not that I'm not going to give you accurate information, but I also want to put out there that this is not the Bible. So get a second opinion, do your own research, make sure you're getting all of the answers that you need. This is something that I did. I just wanted to share with you guys before I present the information. So in this video, we're going to be discussing what to expect when applying to become a flight attendant. And if you're a new flight attendant, stick around. This is going to be great information, okay? Let's get to it. One of the questions that I asked flight attendants that I spoke to was, what advice would you give a new flight attendant or somebody wanting to become a flight attendant, somebody who's already a flight attendant and just started the process and is looking for advice? What would be your first advice to that flight attendant? And you won't believe these answers. I love it. One answer that kept popping up was, be ready for change. And they are absolutely right. You have to be ready for change. You have to be able to adapt to new situations easily. You have to be able to ease into it, because no flight is ever the same. Every flight is different. That is in one work day. You will have multiple situations, different scenarios that plays out. It's not like your regular job. I will tell you just a little bit about why I believe that we got these answers is because the job itself is ever changing. And your bosses, which are on the aircraft, the pilots, you might have to change pilots twice a day. It's not like you go to work and your supervisor's there and every day you meet that same supervisor, so you have developed a relationship with that supervisor. You have to be a people person. You have to be able to quickly interact with people, create a friendly work environment, and also be comfortable with those people, because you're not going to be working with the same people over and over. They change. You might be answering to this pilot on this trip, and the next trip you have a completely different crew, and you have to adapt and also be able to welcome the work relationship and build upon that, because you guys are a team, you're a crew, okay? You depend on each other for survival, basically. So you have to be able to trust each other and make better decisions together. Another thing that you have to be prepared for is the weather. You can go from sunny California to winter, cold, snowy Boston, okay? So you just have to be ready. That's why I want to believe is one of the reasons why multiple flight attendants stress that you have to be ready for change. The time zones are different. You have to be able to adapt to that too. It's a whole lifestyle, not just a career. You have multiple people on the aircraft, and from the time you walk into the airport to the time you get on that plane and get into your hotel room, you are constantly being watched. You always have to be aware of your surroundings. You always have to expect the unexpected on the plane. I can't really say, I don't know if I'm at liberty to talk about way too much, but I would tell you, you have to expect the unexpected. Okay, so another answer I got from the flight attendants was, have some customer service experience. And if you have been researching, you should already know this by now. Customer service experience comes in handy. You are interacting with these customers. You are talking directly to them. You're not on the phone. You're not emailing them. You're right in front of them, okay? So make sure you have some interaction or customer service related experience. And if you don't, make sure that whatever job you're doing, you're able to relate that to a customer service experience. Okay, so take for example, I had a job and I was working in recruiting and management. So there was a situation that took place in my job that I was able to relate that to customer service experience. I was able to tell my story in a way that translated to customer service experience, even though it wasn't a customer service experience, but I had a very stressful time in my job that I was able to deal with. It wasn't a customer, it was my boss, but I was able to deal with it. And I believe that if that was a customer, I would have been able to deal with it the same way. So I was able to tell my story in a way it translated to having a customer service experience, even though it wasn't a direct customer service experience. So if you're able to do that, be a good storyteller. Okay, so another answer I got from the flight attendants was, he said, do not try to teach yourself. I mean, he does have a really great point with this, because some airlines do not prefer you to go out and go to these training schools for flight attendants, because honestly, you really don't need that. If you want to be a flight attendant and the airline hires you for the position, they are going to train you. They definitely train you. They certify you on every aircraft that you're going to be flying. So you do not need to pay your money to get trained at academy that is not airline related. Now granted, there are some out there. If it's not too expensive and you really want to do this, I wouldn't recommend it, but if it's something that you want to try out just to see, go for it. Do whatever makes you happy. But the flight attendants that I've spoken to, they all said the same thing. It's good to have a little bit of experience in first aid. So if you have that, that's great. Firefighting, that's great. Like anything first responder related, it's great. But you do not have to pay a bunch of money to go to an academy to learn how to be a flight attendant. And also, I heard that recruiters don't like that because they believe that somehow you are gonna be a distraction. I'll tell you, it's a fast-paced industry, and even the training is very condensed. There are a lot of things that you have to learn in so little time. And some airlines have longer time, but other airlines, you don't have a lot of time to learn. Some of them are of the mindset that you've already been told things that are going to confuse you. Once you start learning their training, you're probably going to be asking questions that's going to be taking the training class backwards while they're trying to move forward. So always be mindful of that. But if you have any type of medical experience, that it's very helpful. Make sure to put that on your resume. Make sure you put in customer service on your resume. Those things are helpful. Okay, this is a good one. This flight attendant said, save your money. And I 100% agree with that. Make sure if you're planning on becoming a flight attendant, I can attest to that. Make sure that you are saving your money. At least save a year's worth of money that you're able to live on. You are going to get paid for your work, but depending on the airlines, not a lot of airlines pay really high in your first year, especially if you're going to a regional. I've heard a lot of stories. I've never been a regional flight attendant, but I've heard from regional flight attendants that the pay is not as high. And for every first year flight attendants, because I've been a first year flight attendant before, and I understand the struggle. So if you are planning on becoming a flight attendant, prepare for your first year. Make sure that you are saving up money, save up some cash and put it away. Make sure that you have some living costs, some food. Make sure that you have money for a possible move. If you have to move and you're not going to be living in your base, make sure you have some money for that. I mean, you are going to get paid, but like I said, the first year pay for airline workers, it's not what you think it is. I thought wrong too, and I don't want you to make that mistake, okay? You don't have to have a full year, but if you can at least save up for, let's say, 5 to 6 months, make sure you're good. And if you don't have the money, that's fine. Just don't expect too much, because I don't want you to be disappointed. So don't expect too much. Just know that it's first year and it gets better. I promise you it does get better, but for the first year is a little rough. So I just want you to be aware. And some ways you can save money is if you know you have something in the works, you want to go that route of becoming a flight attendant, start cutting back on your bills, start cutting back on your spending habits. Put yourself on a budget, stick to it, start learning that because you're going to need it. Another great one is start putting yourself in the mindset of I'm going to be away from home, probably a long time. If you're lucky, you can get based at home and you get to see your family, but make sure you know that that is not a guarantee, because you could be working Christmas, New Year's, especially if you're new and you're on reserve. That's a whole nother ballgame. I will get into that some other time, but for the purpose of this video, we're only going to scratch the surface on this topic. So if you're on reserve, you basically do not own your schedule. The company kind of owns you for a little bit. Make sure you're aware of that. Prepare yourself mentally that you're not going to get your holidays that you need off. Some graduations you're going to miss. Friends' birthdays you're going to miss. So make sure you're ready for that before actually jumping into the pool of becoming a flight attendant. And one great advice I got was from one of my captains. I had this flight and I struggle with accepting long days. I was, when I get there and it's like a long day and a long flight, I become a Debbie Downer and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. Why am I here? Oh, blah, blah. I would just complain. And there was this day that my captain told me, he said, hey, Rhonda, guess what? You signed up for this life. You signed up for this trip. You've had this trip for a whole month and you knew that. And I was like, you're right. And he's like, one thing you need to do, one thing I always do, is prepare myself mentally. I said, this is the trip. You signed up for it. This is the career. You chose to be here. Nobody forced you here. So if you're going to do it with a smile on your face and don't complain, and your life is going to be a lot easier. I mean, I wouldn't complain to the customers or being nasty or anything, but it was just a really great learning lesson that he gave me. And I use that in any situations. If I have something that I have to do, say I promise that I'm going to go to a party, and then the day comes, I want to drag my feet, I just remember, okay, nobody forced me to agree to this. I've agreed to it. Put a smile on your face and go do it. And you end up having fun, actually. You don't want to be miserable at work. So that was a really great advice I got from that captain. Thanks, Cap. Okay, so we're going to discuss in full detail about interviews and interview questions and how to prepare for it. But for the sake of this video, we're going to touch a little bit on the answers I've gotten so far from flight attendants. So one of the questions that I asked was, what do you think landed you the job during your interview process? And I spoke to your flight attendant. He's a male flight attendant, crazy as hell. He said, my good looks and my charm. I thought that was funny, so I thought I'd share it with you, but he went in depth a little bit. So what he ultimately said was his ability to adapt to situations and his personality. He's very, very He's a people person, I'll put it that way. So I'm sure that shined bright like a diamond to the interviewers. So be able to win these people over, okay? They're humans too. Make them believe that you're the right one for the job, and that if they miss out on you, they're gonna be missing out on a great lifelong employee. So make that shine, make your personality shine. Do not come off overbearing or just too much to handle, okay? Be a team player, that works. Because on the airplane, these people are your teammates. So you wanna make sure that you're projecting that you can be a part of a team and you do not want to run the show. You are able to take commands and you're able to fall in line should there be a need for that. And I will add a little bit to this by saying what I believe landed me the job was my ability to connect with the people that were there first, because I looked to them as humans. And even though we were all freaked out, I can't tell you don't freak out, but I can tell you as you're freaking out, be yourself, okay? Be yourself. I know this sounds like, okay, all right, everybody says that, okay, what's special about that? But it actually works because the interview process is very, very long. Even though you might think that just because you're sitting around and you're not being asked a question at the moment that, okay, you're chill and you're relaxed and you can let your guard down. No, you have to go in the door being yourself so that you're not caught off guard being something else. Because the entire time you're there, you're being watched. Even if you're not being asked a question, you're still being interviewed. The process is long. When you get there, try to be yourself. What do I believe landed me in the job was the fact that I was myself, and I had a background in the corporate side of things with interviewing, so I didn't know what to expect. I was freaking out, but I knew that I can only get one of the two answers, yes or no. So there's no need for me to be sweating and dying, okay? So I was gonna get the job or I wasn't. One thing I would say is that be prepared, because if you're not prepared, you're going to let your nerves get the best of you. If you're not prepared and you're nervous, you're not gonna know what to say. But at least if you know what you're talking about, you can project confidence. So make sure that you have all of your answers, you've done your research, you study your answer. Heck, one of the flight attendants told me that he was practicing in the mirror, talking to himself and answering the questions. Do that. If that's what you gotta do, do that. Once you're going to sit your interview, I can't promise you that you're not gonna be nervous, because we all get nervous. But if you know what you're talking about, you're able to project confidence. And with that confidence and your people skills, your personality shines through, and the interviewer can see that. Okay, so this is one thing that I asked. What do you remember from your interview? I asked a few flight attendants this, and one of them told me that they remember the sad look on the people who didn't get a job offer letter. So he said this was a humbling experience for him, and it also made him proud of how much work he put in, but also appreciated the job even more. Looking at those people who also put in just as much work but didn't get the job. So he knew that when he entered training, he had to do his best to secure that spot, because that could have gone to somebody else who actually wanted the job just as much as he did. This is an opportunity of a lifetime, so I really do encourage you to do yourself justice by being prepared, just being able to get to the interview process. There are a lot of people who didn't make it in the vetting process, the video interview, the online tests. Sometimes there are triggers in the systems when you apply that automatically rejects you or something like that. Like, you know, make a silly mistake and you get rejected for that. So there are a lot of different factors that plays into you being selected to even make the face-to-face interview. So when you make it to the interview, make sure that you make it your best. Put your best foot forward, I'll say. Oh, and one interview tip, I really love this one, was calm down, okay? It's gonna be okay. Calm the hell down. I know it's hard to calm down, but tell yourself it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. There's only one of two things. They can tell you yes or no. Yes or no. You're going to feel bad, but don't let that deter you. Go ahead and keep trying. They encourage you to keep trying. Some airlines say come back in 6 months, come back in a year. Apply. Continue to apply. Don't give up. If this is your dream job, do not give up on it, okay? Another one was monitor your surroundings as you're being interviewed. Mention the importance of safety. This job is safety related. This is the age-old nugget that everybody tells you about. If you've watched any videos or looked online, everyone encourages you to mention safety. So safety. No, you don't need to do that. Make sure you have a story to tell and you're able to tie it back into safety and how important safety is into aviation and how important you take safety in your day-to-day life. Do you watch out for your surroundings? Do you get into a building and locate your exit? All of those things, situational awareness, are you fully competent when it comes to safety? Can people rely on you? All of those things are things that are great to mention once you are in an interview to become a flight attendant, because we're safety professionals on the aircraft, okay? Everyone's looking to us when ish go down. I meant something, situation, sickness, evacuation, anything. They're looking to you. Another question that I asked was, how did you prepare for your interview? Guys, I tried to get all the juicy answers. Flight attendant number 1 said, I did my research on the company I was applying to, and I also practiced my interview questions and answer. Flight attendant number 2 said, do your research. Google. I'm not making this up, people. This is what they said. And I agree. And this other flight attendant left a little bit of nuggets. I like to call her FA12, okay? She left some really great nuggets for you guys. She said what she did was she Googled the company, what their demographic was, and who they were trying to market to and what their product was, what product they were selling and who they were selling it to. And I thought this was brilliant. The reason she gave for this is a really great one. She said that if she knew who the company was marketing to, because she's essentially applying to become an ambassador for this company. Flight attendants basically are influencers for the airlines. So sometimes. She said the significance of her Google search of the demographic the company was marketing to and what products they were trying to sell to these people was because she wanted to be prepared for her interview. If she was going to be an ambassador for this brand, she wanted to know what they were selling, who they were selling to, and how to market the brand. So she watched advertisements on the company, she Googled ads for the company. And with that knowledge, she was able to put together a comprehensive study of the company. So that in itself helped give her a leg up. When she went there, she already knew what to expect. If she was going to be a brand ambassador for this brand, which is the company that she applied to, she needed to be the best spokesperson for this brand. So I think that was very brilliant of her. So if you want to go ahead and follow that, hey, she's a flight attendant, so obviously it worked. Google the company interview questions. You can find all of this information on Google. Mostly where I found mine was on Glassdoor, and I just didn't study one airline. I studied multiple airlines interview questions just to give myself a broader knowledge of the industry itself. So don't limit yourself to just one airline, because the questions change, and if it's the same job, which is the job of a flight attendant, you're all doing basically the same thing on different aircrafts or different destinations, but they're all the same thing. So if you're able to answer a situational question from American, Delta, United, Frontier, Spirit, they're all tied into the same industry and the same position that you're looking for. So if you see questions from Spirit and you're going to your Frontier Airlines interview, make sure that you are studying all of those questions to give yourself a leg up. Flight attendant number 3 prepared for their interview by writing on flashcards. Hey guys, this is dedication. and this is what you need to survive in this industry, okay? So if you're dedicated, treat it like the way you would treat your final exam, because you say you're in college and you have a final exam that's going to land you your degree. You're going to study. If you need to put your feet in ice, okay, maybe I'm the only one who does that, but you know, whatever your method of staying awake and studying is, make sure you're doing the same thing for this job, because it's an opportunity. I can't stress this enough. It's an opportunity of a lifetime. You don't want to screw this up. You want to put your best foot forward. So whatever you got to do, like this flight attendant, what they did was wrote flashcards of the questions and answer and practice it over and over. So when they got there, they knew what they were talking about. So that way it helps calm your nerves. We are going to go into detail about everything that I've discussed, every topic, from more advice from flight attendants to the interview tips, how to prepare for the interview. We're going to go step by step in the next video. And we're also going to discuss pros and cons about the job, because every job has pros and cons, okay? So we want to make sure you're weighing all of your options and making the best decision. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to wish you a pleasant stay at your destination, wherever you're watching this video from. I'd like to invite you to like this content if you did, hit the like button, or subscribe if you actually love to see my wonderful face again on your timeline. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye bye. Make good choices.